Three, two, one. Hello, and welcome to the Crowley Channel podcast for today, January 22nd, 2021. Sponsored today by My Pillow, 10-year warranty, made at Mike Lindell's factory in Chaska, Minnesota.
Oh yeah, we've got them here too.
So you could buy your pillows from somewhere in China, like we buy like where the NBA players get all their shoes, or and they are awesome pillow. I got like two of them. I use one of them on my feet, and I got the other one. It's really an awesome product. I'm not being paid to say that or anything, but. Anyways, I know we have a horde of topics to get to. We're on with AJ Kaufman from Alpha News, who's got a couple of hot articles right off the presses as I speak. But the obvious thing I want to open with today, being from Milwaukee, is the passing of Hank Aaron. And one of my earlier childhood memories was when he was chasing 715. And I remember a lot of documentaries, a lot of specials on talking about his quest and the comparison to Babe Ruth and what he had to go through, starting off in the minors, playing down south and play, back when he set the color barrier and the separate water fountains and everything else. But, and it also showed the hate mail that he received at the time. But I remembered when he actually hit 714, like first at bat of the season in Cincinnati, traditional Reds home opener. And then he was ordered by Bory Kuhn to play two of the first three games. So he made like one at bat in another game and got out of there. So because NBC had a national telecast on Monday, and that's when he hit the 715th home run. But as I noted in my story today at kacmedia.com, here we go. And that's what I should do, is get my own website up.
Did you get the Vin Scully quote in there in your article?
Oh, yes. I remembered when it happened in real time. My mom went to the place across the street to get some cigarettes. I said, no, Aaron's coming up. He's going to hit that home run right now. And he hit it while my mom was over. Kurt Gowdy was on the call. I remember going, it's deep, deep, deep. He did it. So that's, I remember that call from it. And over the years, Milo Hamilton's call on the Braves radio has been played many times along.
What Vin Scully said was on the, I don't know if that was radio or TV, what Vin Scully said was, he said, it's a marvelous moment for the country and the world. A black man is getting a standing ovation in the Deep South for breaking a record of an all-time baseball idol. And, excuse me, need the sneeze button here, right? In this era where we have such faux outrage and victimhood from Black, Hispanic, white, whoever it might be, but especially NBA and NFL players who think that they're going through tumultuous turmoil, whatever it might be, when almost none of them are, not only making a lot of money, but facing absolutely no discrimination when they're traveling. I wish someone could look back, and send that video and send that image to whether it's LeBron James or anyone else, because this guy played through the in the South in the 60s and 70s during the height of civil rights, and he persevered, and he did it quietly, and he had political opinions, obviously, and he's an icon, but it just is a very different burden that he bared, getting hate mail and death threats. I know all politicians and probably some athletes get hate mail and death threats, but I just don't know, when you have to fake hate crimes on your Brentwood mansion like LeBron James did, that just shows you how little serious.
These were handwritten letters. This wasn't like 15,000 people on
Right.
Twitter there.
This is not
giving
right.
a death
Thank you.
threat to
Exactly.
anyone who fumbles in overtime or, whatever. But no, I remember those specials, and they were showing those letters, and there was the N-word and everything else. It goes, if you break that record, your sniper's gonna get you before you get to third base, stuff like that.
And there were two guys that ran in the field, but they were there to congratulate him, as I recall.
Oh yes, and yeah, everyone remembers that, and yeah, it kind of. I remember it. I got nervous for a half second. I realized it was all in good.
Yeah,
except for you can't
teenage guys with long hair, but they weren't. They were there to congratulate him, and everyone's seen that. They used to show that clip at the beginning of the baseball game of the week when I was growing up. Now, obviously, I wasn't alive. You were young. And people who are watching this, some of our younger fans probably don't even remember what game of the week we're talking about. Oh
yeah, I tell people, hey, I saw him play. The last 2 years he played for the Milwaukee Brewers, and he goes, "You saw Aaron play?" I hate to date myself that much, but yes, he played a couple. And the thing that I put in my story this morning after. As I was glad that the story played out in Atlanta. I don't know if you see my screen there.
I do not see it yet.
Okay.
People forget that he played in Milwaukee, Kurt.
Well, obviously for his first 13 years, obviously.
Yeah, but they forget the Brewer part of it.
Right. So here, yeah. So the first thing I know, he was 6 foot, 180 pounds.
Right.
And he did all that. And he wasn't just a home run hitter. He hit 305 for his career, 3,771 hits, third all-time leader in RBIs and total bases. And it's about the durability as much as anything. I'm glad the story broke out and played out in Milwaukee and Atlanta.
Yeah.
Now, if you grew up in Milwaukee like I did, and I would listen to my folks, older people, there is bitterness to this day of the Milwaukee Braves leaving after 1965. But I think it also turned out good that the second chapter played out in Atlanta.
I think you're right. And then of course you said he came back to Milwaukee with a different franchise,
right?
75 and 76. So he played 23 seasons or 22 years. And, Albert Pujols will wind up playing that many years, and we'll put up numbers that are
pretty darn close.
And Babe Ruth obviously has numbers that are right there. And Willie Mays' numbers may not quite be there, but I think in terms of pure hitters, I think Aaron and Mays would stand alone. Ruth, it's hard to always judge back in the 20s. I don't like to get into arguments about what competition he played against versus now. I think that's unproductive, but his numbers speak for themselves. And Pujols, and it's hard to put anyone else in that category as far as
I would put Ted Williams in that category.
Yeah, sure.
It doesn't. I mean, you give him those 5 years. World War II happened, like COVID happened. Went down, and that was 5 years he served in the United States military, but he would have been somewhere around 700 home runs.
Right. People don't realize his power numbers were better. That they think of him as like a Tony Gwynn, who was maybe the greatest hitter I've ever seen, but not a power hitter. And Ted Williams obviously was both. And other players had their careers cut short. Other players were linked to steroids, so it's hard to include them. But Aaron was, I never saw him play live. But always he and Mays to me are always tied together because I'm pretty sure their careers overlapped almost to the exact year.
And obviously there were the articles how, and it all comes back to Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson paved the way, and that's true. And you think of Aaron started in 54. It's only 7 years.
I know. I was just going to say, and I think Mays was like 51 or 52.
Yeah. Willie Mays played in 51, and then he served in the Korean War. So, he could be at 700 something home runs.
Right, he got the 660, which was passed
right.
by
So you think of
last
those
year.
two, Frank Robinson, Ernie Banks, and I have to be missing someone in there. But
Well, Mickey
yes, it
Mantle's
was,
up there. There's a lot of
and
people
Lou
that come into
Brock,
that
he
discussion.
started his career in I don't know, it was C-ball, D-ball, but he was with the St. Cloud Rocks, as you know.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Lou Brock, another person who passed away last year. I see you have the
yeah,
list of them here
Tom
already.
Seaver, Lou Brock, and I really feel for the Atlanta franchise right now. And unfortunately, I thought of the other day after Don Sutton died, and I'm thinking, Phil Negro, Don Sutton. I said, I hope Hank Aaron doesn't go away soon. And I was thinking that 2 days ago. So,
And he got the COVID vaccine too recently. There's article that was listed in the article I read. He went there to get the COVID. Yeah, let me. I've got that actually. It says Baseball Hall of Famer Hank Aaron, along with former civil rights leader Andrew Young. They got vaccinated in Georgia Tuesday. I'm not sure when this article is from, by the way. I think it's about 2 weeks ago. Sending a message to Black Americans that the shots are safe. And so he has no qualms, and he got the vaccine, rolled up his sleeves, and did that. So the cause of death is not listed. The government might list it as COVID for all you know, but obviously at 86, there are other aspects of why you die.
Knowing the government, that it just might do exactly that. But the other thing I wanted to mention, the Braves should do a caravan across Wisconsin. I know you've attended those in the past with the Twins, but yeah, my mom would tell me when Hank Aaron came up to Ashland, Wisconsin, and as you know, especially back then, it wasn't easy being a Black person hanging around up there. But
yeah, the far rural north, right?
right,
Right, and it was cold.
Yeah, he did caravans, middle of winter, you name it, Wausau or Eau Claire or wherever, and yeah, exactly. And he did all of that. So it was a different time and era, to be sure.
Yeah, rest in peace, Hank Aaron.
Exactly.
Hopefully Willie Mays and the other elderly folks are doing okay.
Yeah, exactly. What and you gave me a bunch of topics for today. So I
Are you being
am
conscious?
going to. I had something pulled up here.
Oh my God.
America's favorite game show. I mean, now Ari Bingo is
Bingo.
a great tool to use while we're on the air here. Ari Bingo is a classic. But we got Kaufman Jeopardy.
Are there questions underneath there?
You know what? I didn't get the time to do that, so I might have to do this on the fly.
Are there really questions underneath there? Because if that was
yeah, I'll put questions there in the future. So that's just the broken flashbulb popped in my mind about 45 minutes ago.
That's good.
45 minutes before going on air. So our categories for today are Inauguration Day, national security, Joe Biden's agenda, virtue signaling, and COVID in sports.
Virtue signaling.
You are the 56-time defending champion, AJ Kaufman. You make the call here.
Do I make the call or do I just start talking?
What category would you like to start with?
Oh shoot! Let's do Inauguration Day because there probably isn't that much to say about it. We'll knock that one out.
Okay, and you know what? I made sure to sleep in on Wednesday, just miss the inauguration, but all of the fears of what was going to happen at state capitals. I think the message pretty well got sent to the QAnon crowd that nothing was going to be tolerated after they sent 21,000 troops to literally sleep at the Capitol. But from everything I heard, it was well done. Of course, they had to get Sarah Fuller involved, so that squib kick and those 2 extra points got her somewhere. But I guess Bernie Sanders is over on his recliner is going to be a bobblehead. That's being produced. So, well, I mean, I think the good thing is that we can put the Trump days in the rearview mirror, but in its place are some other things that are equally concerning. Number one, and then we're probably getting into Joe Biden's agenda, is the immediate shutdown of the Keystone Project.
Yeah, I actually think that's a good place to begin. I would say about this speech, you had people, obviously people on the left loved it, but you had people on the right, or people that were, are in the middle, that praised it. It was a, grandfatherly, friendly speech overall, pleading for unity. Now, of course, that's kind of, unity is a pie in the sky issue that you could question. Everyone pleads for unity, but you have people with different views, so you're not going to end those political divisions. But he did talk about his life a little bit and about healing. And he talked about America in a positive way, like you would. It was 20 minutes, which is more than enough. But what I didn't like, I'd give the speech a B. I think it was fine. I don't think it was terrible, like some people say. But bringing up race so much is not only unnecessary or unwarranted, I really believe, but it's divisive. And he talked just too much about systemic racism, which is a complete myth purported by the left and the New York Times 1619 Project that we don't need to get into. But for a 78-year-old man to bring that up, it's just totally unnecessary. And all the school children watching have to hear that. And he talked about political extremism, white supremacy, domestic terrorism. The planet is crying. These are hyper-partisan issues. And it was a little bit depressing, not saying he was factually incorrect about millions of jobs being lost and businesses closing, and kept talking about people being hungry. Yes, that exists, but that's always existed. And you can, opening up businesses, some might say, would be a better cure for that than to keep spending and spending. But I don't want to get too into the speech. Keystone Pipeline is something that, and I wrote about this, I guess I wrote yesterday, and it was published around midnight. I'm not going to read the article, but you can see it on Alpha News.
I got it right here.
Still at the top. Oh, you got it up, pulled up?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, Canada, last I checked, was an ally and a country that the left always talks about. And you, Kurt, love Canada, and I love Canada. I go up there a lot. You're not only costing.
Hey, I can't wait to get back up there.
Yeah, when the border.
I hope at some point this summer, or I read AccuWeather did a little thing about the Northwest Angle. I mean, you've been everywhere else. Have you been to the Northwest Angle?
No, I was very close to it. I was at Lake of the Woods, but it takes about an hour to get to just from the border. You have to go all the way up and around the lake and then come back down. It's a lot. It's not close.
There are 110 residents in the Northwest Angle. And same thing with International Falls, Fort Francis, Ontario. You have a lot of your wilderness outfitters. It's a jumping off point for seaplanes that go to the remote lakes in northwestern Ontario. So it's a big business that has been lost in those areas. And if you happen to live in this Northwest Angle, I guess you can take a canoe or a boat or whatever.
Not this time of year.
I'm sure a lot of people did that, but what they did, it was supposed to open today, was they opened up an ice road. So they're going to have that for a month and a half, for how long that the ice is stable. And it's 22 miles, and the speed limit is 25 miles an hour. So you do the math. You do the round trip math on that.
An hour. Well, look, and for those of you listening at home, this is in northwestern and north central Minnesota, but the situation is also going on at the borders in New York to Canada, and in Maine, and in Washington State, and even in Montana and North Dakota. So there's a lot of towns that rely on each other. Even if they're not right over the border, there's towns that are 20 miles into Canada where people come down to the US or vice versa. So it's an unfortunate situation that you think could be resolved a lot quicker than 10 months, even with high case numbers. Although in those areas, who knows how high the case numbers are. And they are allowing some business travel, but people who may have property on the other side of the lake, from Detroit, who live in Ontario,
right,
it's a lot trickier.
So Detroit and Buffalo.
Right. Buffalo and
I
Erie.
think they call it the horseshoe area, Hamilton and Brampton and a few of those places.
Fort Erie is right across from Buffalo, and that's a city. And these are not small cities. I mean, Fort Francis has 10,000 people. I mean, these are not like cities of 200 people. So the pipeline has nothing to do with really, the border being closed per se. But, I led with the Wall Street Journal's comment, and that caught my attention. This is a slap at Canada, sending a message to investors that playing by U.S. rules provides no immunity from arbitrary political whim. In this case, the whim of one man, the new president, and the environmental lobby, which generally, and I'll generalize here, is funded and supported by wealthy urban people who have absolutely no connection to rural America, Canada, wherever. These are people that live in New York and San Francisco that just are scared of the word pipeline. And,
Right.
they don't mind if it's taken by truck or by train, which, my clients don't mind that, or
And,
by
and
barge.
you have
But
the environmentalists on it, and I know how a lot of the Native Americans have felt about it.
the Native Americans would also benefit from it financially. It's a trade-off. I mean, I think if they
Right.
look at the facts, pipelines are safer. And I say this with
Yeah.
all honesty, than
But
trucks and trains and barges for spills. They're just afraid of the word pipeline, and they would benefit financially, and they'd have a sharing agreement. And it would sustain, of course, 10,000, 11,000 jobs, almost all of them union. So when Biden's up there Wednesday, or his press secretary today, talking about good jobs for middle class families and working families and union families, you just killed thousands of them to appease people in San Francisco and New York City. It's just unbelievable to me. And of course, the geostrategic aspect of it, where Russia and Venezuela and Iran and countries we don't like, who aren't going to do it safely, and China are going to benefit from this instead of the United States and Canada. So it may just sound like a symbolic thing because Obama canceled it, then Trump brought it back, and Biden did. It's a terrible thing. It's a terrible precedent to set. And it just shows that how powerful there are a couple groups in the Democrat Party that control everything. One of them is the environmentalists, others teachers unions. We may get to that later. But the environmental lobby is almost more disappointing because if you scroll down just a little bit, I think I had a line here. And by the way, the shares on this are low because it has not been social media'd out yet. So Anthony,
oh yes.
my editor, Anthony, it's been up for 17 hours. Let's get it on social media because my other article today already has 2,000 shares. So let's go. But anyway.
and the other part of this I noticed was TC Energy is in Calgary.
Correct. Calgary.
I know this for a fact. Calgary lives and dies with the energy situation.
Yeah, there's an oil city. That's
Alberta in general.
Edmonton too, to a lesser degree, but certainly right. Calgary. Scroll down real quick. There's a good quote there from realclearenergy.com, which I'm not going to read, but it's important. Oh yeah, unlike Iran, Russia, and Venezuela, Canada is a responsible country and it's the third largest exporter of crude oil in the world, which almost all of it, I think it was 98%, comes to the US. So, it was a bad decision. And of course, you can see down below, I mentioned Obama's State Department, not exactly, pro oil industry, found that it would have no material impact on greenhouse gas emissions. And down a little more real quick, just toward the end, it's really symbolic. I said Biden yanked the permit and rejoined the Paris Climate Accord, which will do absolutely nothing for anybody but waste money. China and others are not going to follow it. It doesn't do anything. And neither of these things will affect the climate. Both rejoining Paris and dumping Keystone will not do anything to help the environment or the climate. So everyone loses. Everyone loses except for some people in Silicon Valley and New York and other places who might make some money or at least feel better about themselves for a day. It's a cultural thing. It's just really unfortunate. I guess maybe the railroads win. So maybe that's.
You know what? And I said this all last year. I'm wondering, when are we going to see $4 a gallon gas again?
Not yet, but
that's one of my. I mean, say what you want about Donald Trump, but it has been pretty damn good with gas prices the last few years.
Yeah, well, these are things people don't think about, and everyone usually.
It's never ever talked about.
I do think, by the way, you got to remember that while most Americans, 80-90%, want gas prices low, the 10 or 15% who live in large cities and don't have cars who tend to be environmentalists, they don't mind high gas prices. In fact, I have friends of my wife who want $5 a gallon gas because it'll force people to stop driving, because they live in Brooklyn and San Francisco and Minneapolis even, and they don't drive. So they don't, selfish as can be and would crush the economy, but they want $5 a gallon gas. But that says a lot.
And there's your money quote right here.
It's true. And those are all oil countries, by the way, Iran, Russia, and Venezuela. I didn't just pick on them because they're totalitarian countries. They're also oil countries.
I mean, do we want to get back to having to get our oil from the Middle East, and every time someone farts over there or something, and then sea of, there's a very narrow strait that gets blocked off. If you ever seen the movie
Strait of Hormuz?
Strait of Hormuz. Yeah. Yes. And if you ever pull up the Countdown to Looking Glass, which was a Canadian movie, and it was kind of a mockumentary, but it's back from the 80s. But that was the storyline, is that various nations blocked the Sea of Hormuz, and it led to war. Yeah. So
it's just so backwards. It's so
right.
Backwards. So, okay, well, we can move on. I want to make sure we get everything covered.
Oh, sure.
And at the end of this meeting, we can refresh the page and see how many shares there are, because he just posted on social media 10 minutes ago. So I bet you'll be over 100 by the end of this call.
Well, we shall see. So let me get back here.
Back to Ari Jeopardy here.
Yes. Actually, what I want to do is move down to the.
Oh, yeah. You got your pen handy.
There we go. So National Guard booted from I also reported on this on KC Media last night. And what did I do here? Here I put this nice little annotation thing, and I just undo it, erase it.
Hey, if you refresh that, you'll see it's way over 844 now on the shares, but not that important. Just mentioning.
Anyways, let's move on.
Okay.
There, I got an eraser. There we go. I mean, this is we're doing this on the fly. So we're going to your article. Thousands of National Guardsmen, including dozens from Minnesota. And then by Thursday night, I guess they moved them from sleeping inside the Capitol, or at least they had cots, and at least it was room temperature. They moved them to an adjacent congressional parking garage. Well,
it's called the Thurgood Marshall Judicial Center, and I looked it up online, and it's not too far away, but it's a parking garage. Yeah, it's an active parking garage where people were coming and going during the day. I don't want to get into like a culture war by saying, politicians are sleeping in their warm beds while soldiers are out in the cold, because, politicians were concerned, and the soldiers have been to Afghanistan, some of them. So they've dealt with worse, don't get me wrong, but it does seem like, 36 hours after the inauguration, where they were there to keep the peace, that sending a few thousand of them to a parking garage where there's one toilet allegedly and limited electricity and no heat. Whoever made that decision probably should not have their job as of Monday, but it's government, so who knows? But they remedied it. You had every congressman and senator on Twitter last night, everyone from Tammy Duckworth and Chuck Schumer to Adam Kinzinger and Mike Lee saying, WTF, let's fix this.
Yeah,
and they
yes,
right around.
I mean, I have a money quote from one of the guardsmen. It said, it's messed up, because it shows how politicians really feel. A day after the inauguration, you literally kicked us to the curb. And Governor Abbott was also not happy. And he said, well, if this is the way it's going to be, he said, send them back home. Yeah,
that's what he said. He said we should. Yeah, I don't know if I sent you that or you found it your own. I saw that yesterday too. That we're not going to send them again next time if this is the way they're treated. Now, obviously, there was some clerical error, and you know how government bureaucracy works. I don't think any senator or congressman was ordering this. It was someone, a bureaucrat, whether it's Biden administration or Capitol Police or whatever, who made this decision. And guardsmen follow orders, as you know, and there they were for a few hours. And I'm glad that by midnight, by about midnight Eastern, really, it had been remedied. But
Right.
you got their quotes on there anonymously, and thousands of them there, and the fact that it took as long as it did. And frankly, today I was disappointed. I watched part of the White House press secretary's briefing, and they asked her about it, and she didn't have anything to say. Jen Psaki. She just basically said President Biden's son was in the National Guard and he's a big supporter. Like that was it. Like barely, not even an apology or acknowledgement. So it makes me wonder if it was someone in the Biden administration who screwed up. I don't know. I don't like to jump to conclusions. I don't like to hypothesize or get too emotional. But can you imagine if Donald Trump were president when this happened?
Oh, yes. And bipartisan. Tammy Duckworth.
Well, yeah, she's a veteran too.
Yes. And I guess 12 guardsmen were removed from their details. They were looking into background checks. They were worried about an inside job, maybe a rogue guardsman perhaps starting something. There was a lot going on.
Do you mean Biden or Abbott down there, second to last paragraph? I just want to make sure.
Oh, okay. This is the most offensive thing I have ever heard, Biden wrote in a social media post.
I think you mean Abbott.
No one should question the loyalty or professionalism of the Texas National Guard. I authorized 1,000 guardsmen to go to DC. I will never do it again if they are disrespectful.
That was a quote from Abbott, right?
That was Governor Abbott in Texas.
Okay, you got Biden. I was just confused. So you got Biden.
And then my final paragraph: the guardsmen were allowed back into the Capitol after an outcry from lawmakers led by Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer.
And dozens of others. So. Okay, so there's that story, which just broke last night.
And I see Madison, North Carolina Rep. Madison Cawthorn there. So
a veteran who obviously lost his legs and is also newly elected and very young, like probably younger than some of these guys. I think he's only 23 or 24.
Was he in the service, or was it like a car accident?
It was a car accident, but wasn't he in the service? Now I'm getting confused. I know it was in a car accident, but I thought he was a veteran too. And I hate to look this up on the fly. He is only 25, by the way. And no, he's not a veteran. Okay, I apologize. Wait. That's what it was. He was going to go to the Naval Academy, but after the car accident, he couldn't go. That's what happened. He was on his way to the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis, and he couldn't join because of the car accident. Okay, so there's the answer.
Okay, understand. And just nothing really else that basically also what was in my article. That's Alabama, Maryland, Tennessee, Virginia. Those are the states represented in that. But we'll move on. So I think we hit Inauguration Day. Do you want to do national security or Joe Biden's agenda?
I think the National Guard covers a little national security. I just, I'm taking a wait and see attitude with national security, especially with Iran. But the Secretary of State called China a genocidal regime. That's good. I think there's a lot of bipartisanship on understanding China's an evil rogue regime. Pretty much everyone except for LeBron James and the Google heads probably know that. So to make it, we should have a bingo on how many times I mentioned LeBron James, but it's important.
I guess the Lakers were in Milwaukee last night. They had venison before the game. So I guess they ate the deer figuratively and literally. They won the game. And then, let's give a plug to the Basic Brown Show. A lot of NBA coverage on there. I know they're talking about the three Stooges in Brooklyn, Durant, Harden, and Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving, I think, has been AWOL the whole season.
Well, I think as far as national security, though, we'll touch on that. They approved the Secretary of Defense, or confirmed him today, Lloyd Austin, first African-American Secretary of Defense. Seems like a nonpartisan guy and a straight shooter. So I'm glad he was confirmed. I believe it was 93-2. And the only two Republicans to vote against it were Mike Lee, who can be erratic, and of course, Josh Hawley, who seems to want to just make himself known anytime he can. And his approval rating in the red state of Missouri is down to 36%. So He's
Who's
maybe on Tucker. He may be on Fox News every night, but his actions the last few weeks are not helping him overall.
okay? Yeah, take me. What was the 93-2 vote for?
The Secretary of Defense, retired General Lloyd Austin, was approved or confirmed by the Senate 93-2. I don't know where the other 5 were. Maybe they were.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, but
So yeah, so there's we can, and Joe Biden's agenda. You know, we talked about the Keystone. I think that covers some of it. I would only just add that a lot of executive orders, which I don't like. I've been consistent. I don't like them no matter what president.
he had them stacked up to the moon.
I just think it puts too much emphasis and reliability, or whatever you want to call it, on one man. In this case, the president. And a lot of them just go back and forth no matter who the president is, whether on abortion and some other issues. And it seems like this is why you have people like New York Times writers and others saying they were having deep psychological trauma when Trump won. And then you have them coming out yesterday and saying the world is forever changed for good and the sun is shining. And it goes both ways, but there's more hyperventilating on the left usually. And that's because we put so much into one person. I mean, your life, not your life, but well, yeah, your life and my life too. But most people's lives, not all, most people's lives were not changed for the worse because Donald Trump was president. Most Americans' lives, I should say. I don't know how many Americans' lives were changed for the worse because of Barack Obama. Hello, Kristen Kroll. And
no, I was just trying to look up something.
It is 12 degrees here, maybe cooler. Anyway, it's the obsession with the president.
There was someone that I was, how everyone has to almost make a political. Rusty Dawkins is, I guess he used to be a weatherman here in Lincoln, and I guess he does some other stuff now. But he put in a quote. And I'm going to find it here. Oh, this is an actual house and a picture of Bernie Sanders. Okay, how cute. Here we go. And I should have had this queued up. As of 11 a.m., January 20th, 2021, in Lincoln, Nebraska, it is 42 degrees, mostly sunny. Southwest wind at 22 miles an hour. The president is Joseph R. Biden Jr.
Yeah, and I don't like reading the comments, but I see there's a mix of comments. It looks like unnecessary, but I don't know that's I don't know his politics. I mean,
it's like I just got sick the last few weeks watching Twitter, and they're showing GIFs of Kamala Harris prancing around. He goes, "Here's Kamala delivering the tiebreaker vote," like it's gonna be a scene out of pro wrestling or something.
Yeah, that's going to be crazy. The obsession with her, maybe the least impressive politician in America today, picked for only 2 reasons. It's very depressing. I would add something that I don't know if our listeners will care, but there were articles yesterday, I don't know if I sent you, about how incredibly well dressed the women were. Kamala, Jill Biden, the poet girl.
Wait, if Chris Collinsworth said that, he'd be censored.
Well, that's a good point too. You're right. It's a little bit sexist. And but my point is, they name that, and I'm thinking, like, I'm not a Trump apologist or a what about person, but you just had 4 years where a supermodel who was impeccably dressed, from what I know about women's fashion, was first lady, and they not only didn't say a word about it, people wouldn't put her on the cover, they wouldn't dress her, they made fun of. Okay, it's amazing how they're impressed by the outfits of 70-year-old women like Dr. Jill Biden or Kamala or whomever, or Nancy Pelosi, who's 80, but Melania Trump, whatever. I
meant to ask you, you can take a pass on this.
Okay.
Dr. Martin Luther King, where did he get his doctorate from?
It's a theology. It's a real doctorate, theology.
Okay.
Like a reverend.
So I'm outdated. It's people of a certain age. Mine may have remembered a longtime NBA basketball coach called Dr. Jack Ramsey.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know where he could be. No, he wasn't an actual doctor.
Was Dr. J an actual? Yeah,
Some of my, we all know that was a nickname, Doc Rivers, I'm fine with
Glenn
those
Rivers. I
names.
believe it's Glenn Rivers, right?
Right. So, yeah, I was fine with it. I'm fine with that. So,
Well, I think the obsession with the president, I wrote about this, I think it was this week, that presidential power has been growing for so long that legislators just kind of defer to them or the courts, and this kind of self-aggrandizing way that we treat the president or he treats himself, it needs to be cut down a little bit. And I will just read from my article real quick. I said, I said, Presidents Trump and Obama were divisive in part because of their big personalities. I prefer a more modest president who recedes a few notches and doesn't have the country revolve around him. Well, let's see. I hope that's one hope I have for Biden. He's already achieved what he wanted to, which would be to get elected. He's sort of an institutionalist who's from the Senate. He was in the Senate for 35 years. Maybe he can be a smaller president where the country and the media doesn't revolve around him at all times. Now, obviously, they're going to give him a pass on a lot of things they didn't give Trump on because of the bias in the media. But maybe, without Twitter and with a more, with the media that's generous.
We had a president who 4 years communicated via anti-social media. Mm-hmm. It's like, what's on with addressing the nation on television? Past presidents always did a weekly radio address. Trump was just flying at the keyboard. 24
Yeah, that's how. And his supporters will tell you that's how he got around the media and got stories out there that they wouldn't cover. There is a lot of truth to that, but it also got him in trouble a lot more often than he needed to. That was another problem he had.
Well, overall, I figured he would lose his account after he got inaugurated. Well, it was after January 6th, he was gone.
Right. And so, I didn't follow him. I don't know how many times he tweeted per day, but I think, for every 2 good tweets, there was 1 bad one, or maybe it was 2 for 2. I don't know.
And I guess Mitch McConnell demanded a filibuster. Chuck Schumer denied it. So read about that later.
It's going to be interesting, the 50-50 Senate.
Let's get to virtue signaling. And there just seems to be a story every single day about this. First off, they usually don't announce who the referees are going to be for the Super Bowl until a few days before the game. But they have announced that Sarah Thomas will serve as a line judge for Super Bowl 55, which is 2 weeks from this Sunday. And then there was another story yesterday on the heels of the Boston Red Sox hiring the first ever Black female coach in Major League history. Now the NFL franchise in Washington, who shall remain nameless, they have hired the first Black female coach. And I guess Katie Sellers resigned from the 49ers. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about is, it's just so predictable. You have the 6 or 7 job openings in the NFL, and we got 9,000 articles on how Eric Bieniemy is being hosed.
They always, sorry, I was on mute. They always find one guy. I'm sure there's more than one guy being hosed. Maybe even more than one Black guy being hosed. Maybe there's a Hispanic guy being hosed. Maybe there's a gay white guy being hosed. I don't
know. I looked at all, the hirings, not to turn it into a sports talk show, but
that's okay.
Jacksonville's struggling for attendance and attention and that. So they had the number 1 draft pick and they swung with the fences, hiring Urban Meyer.
Right.
It might turn out to be a good move. It might not turn out to be a good move. The Jets hired a Muslim American from Dearborn, Michigan, Robert Saleh, good friends with Matt LaFleur and Sean McVay and others. So that was a highly applauded hiring. And every time you saw Robert Saleh, someone on television would go, this guy has to be a coach in the NFL.
Yeah, soon. That's. Do you ever? And I'm not trying to get.
They say it every time they show him in the press box.
Yeah, I'm sure they said that about young white coaches like Sean McVay and others that are, but they always
Arthur Smith, who got hired by Atlanta. I said, yeah, this guy's got to be, and he's also from this, who has been successful the last few years. Sean McVay, who I think is still like 35, and Matt LaFleur, Green Bay. I bet you a lot of people don't even know who Green Bay's coach is.
I didn't until I watched the game last week. I really didn't. Right. I mean, I knew it wasn't Mike McCarthy anymore, but I didn't know. The point is they don't get hyped. And I knew Sean McVay because they do like, the media does like him. But yeah, it's interesting, and they always forget the guys that fail. And Mike Tomlin has like teacher level job security apparently. I mean,
I don't know. That's Pittsburgh. It's like Chuck Noll got 20 years. Bill Cowher got about 15 years.
Okay. Mike Tomlin's been there 15 years, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think he's like about 50. I don't even think he's 50 yet.
I get it. He won 2 Super Bowls. That buys you time. We know that. But Mike Scioscia got 15 extra years because he won a World Series in Anaheim with the Angels.
Oh, how many years did Doug Peterson get off his Super Bowl win?
3.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. It goes down there. But virtue signaling is a problem, and it seems to be almost more in sports. This whole, this disingenuous, expression of, I'm so virtuous, I have such great moral values, and I want to make myself enhance my own image by saying how tolerant I am. I texted you on Tuesday night, was it, when Butler was playing? And I only follow college basketball for a couple teams. I try to watch Butler when they're on. I think they played tonight, actually. And it was on CBS Sports Network. And I didn't know the announcers till later. It would turn out to be Jason Horowitz, Jewish dude from Syracuse, and a black ex-athlete, black guy whose name I forget, both guys around my age. And it was like, there was as much talk about Kamala Harris and Joe Biden as there was the basketball game. It was not a competitive game, but I kept muting it because it was like, and we're making progress in sports, and we're making progress in politics, and and I'm like,
oh yeah, they'll get Bill Walton on a game, and he'll talk about in fire.
Bill Walton, you expect it with. He's high and drunk. I kind of I don't watch him much, but I expect it. He's an open left winger. Like, these guys are supposed to be young up and coming announcers. And look, it's Butler and DePaul. I have to think that half people watching that game are not liberal left wing people. They don't want to hear it. Maybe they just ignore it. But then I go to Jason Horowitz's Twitter account to see who he is. And literally the last tweet he wrote was bashing Clay Travis as a racist sexist without using those words. It was, he had put Clay Travis a statement about Katie, what's her name? Your friend, the kicker, Katie Fuller?
Oh, no, Sarah Fuller.
Sarah Fuller. He had put his comments from today about Sarah Fuller, where he said it's virtue signaling and all that. And he basically said, to quote John Mayer, we are all waiting for the world to change when it comes to Clay Travis and regressive people like him. I mean, it was so stupid.
And unfortunately, Jason Whitlock has left Outkick, but I remembered one of his columns where after the Sarah Fuller appearance was, this isn't Make-A-Wish.
Well, it's a great comparison.
College football.
If you talk to people who don't follow sports, they say, wow, that's pretty cool. And then you tell them, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kirk, because you follow a little more than I do.
Right.
Vanderbilt was winless, like 0-7, 0-8, 0-9. Their first and second string kickers had been injured, or just one?
It was COVID protocols.
Okay, COVID, right. So they were missing their kicker or 2 kickers. It was the last or second to last game of the season. They're a bad team, and they brought her in to do like a kickoff and an extra point or a field goal. I mean, this is like...
One kickoff and like a 49-0 loss. So that was her only appearance, was the second half kickoff. And 2 extra points the following week.
Pretty condescending
isn't always that bad.
Right, and she kicked it
when Aaron Rodgers' brother played for him, they won some games and went to bowl games and that. They were decent.
Well, it's pitiable. It's condescending. It lowers the bar too much, and it's unfortunate because she kicked it about as far as a junior varsity high school player would kick it. And as his kickoff that I saw, and you told me the announcers went boom, it's like, it's so condescending. Oh my God.
Exactly. And, you probably remember you were in Lincoln at the time in 2013 when they gave Jack Kaufman the ball in the spring game. And that was a great moment.
Great moment.
And, that's a spring game. You can do that. You know, I was a beautiful moment, as a matter of fact.
Well, he's also a kid.
Right, exactly.
I mean,
So that, you know, that in the right context was a wonderful thing that the University of Nebraska did. So, I mean, it's still talked about now. I think Jack Kaufman's doing fine, but his dad might be having some health problems. It's kind of a sad story that it came around and
for our fans at home, just so they know, Sarah Fuller spoke. I guess I didn't see it. She get a tape message for the inaugural that was played, and she talked about breaking barriers and women. And it's like, boy, there are examples of women breaking barriers. I'd even go as far as to mention the coaches you mentioned, or the GM of the Miami Marlins. But
how about Pat Summitt, one of the
Yeah.
greatest coaches of all time in any sport?
There are a lot of women who break barriers. She's not one of them. I mean, I guess technically she is, but it was pretty pathetic they used her. And then again, the vice president is someone who, you know, did not achieve anything based on ability or success other than being a female and a partial Black, partial Indian. So I guess it goes with the theme, unfortunately. You know, she's
Well,
so
we're down to one topic.
oh good.
And actually, I wanted to close with something else, but COVID and sports. Now, you are hearing some things that there might be a lot of college administrators, athletic departments are worried that the college basketball and college hockey and other winter sports are going to go on hiatus until the COVID numbers go down.
I hadn't heard about hockey, but you may be right. I only heard about basketball. But
Right. And the COVID cases, if over the last 2 days, it has actually, looks like we had 193,000 cases yesterday, which is a lot. But compare it to a week ago, last Thursday, it was 233,000. So for the numbers, we've had about 190,000 the last couple days, but you go back to January 13th and 14th, like we were at 230,000. It's like almost a 20% drop.
yeah, which I was going to say is not covered, but it will be covered now that there's a new president. They will mention that more, but the deaths are still very troubling.
Obviously, and we got that right here. 4,300 plus deaths.
That's not good.
And last 2 days each, and we're not going to gloss over. But as far as shutting down everything again and March Madness and we haven't called up off the NFL. There are 2 NFL games on Sunday. I know those are going to be played. I have been told that.
Oh yeah, of course.
And they are going to play that little thing called the Super Bowl, and they did announce.
The NFL will get through without any real problems, other than half a dozen games being played on like Tuesday or Friday or whatever this year. But
they made it through. I give the NFL credit for that. Hockey's been going on. There've been a couple hiccups there. Been a lot of hiccups in the NBA. But yeah, they're going to make it through. They are expecting 22,000 plus in Tampa. For the Super Bowl.
Oh, that's good to know. What is that, 30% capacity or something?
Oh, that's going to be close to a third. And it's going to be, they're going to let 7,000 plus vaccinated healthcare workers in for free.
Good idea.
And then 15,000. I don't know if it's going to be like in the past where relatives of.
Well, they let teachers in free, more importantly. Will teachers be allowed in free?
I think they should.
Let's have so hard the last 11 months.
Teachers, along with our healthcare heroes on the front line, and especially our teachers.
They've really been physically on the front line, those teachers. They've been
35,000 in there. You know, they're scared to do a Zoom class.
That's their plan, by the way, is to make it
kids get more education watching this.
Oh, for sure. It's not even a question. By the way, I'm okay with education becoming more home-based, but because I think
to an extent,
the factory model they have in schools has failed for years, but these teachers want to be paid their full salary and benefits to sit home and eat Cheetos and work 3 hours a day. I got a problem with that.
And I got a bag of Cheetos. It's on your coffee table in the other room.
Eat Cheetos, watch Netflix, and I won't add anything else to that. Let's just stick with that.
Now you went to this is my off the board category.
Yes.
I guess there was, oh, you know what? I have to play this for you. Rush Limbaugh from like 2 days ago. He is like doubling down on everything, and he is. They haven't hit the morphine on him yet, and he's firing away from his deathbed.
Yeah.
Listen to this.
I think they know that they are not. You got to be very careful here in the words I choose. I think they know that this is something that's been arranged rather than legitimately sought and won. And you can see this in their attitudes, in their smiles. You can see it, hear it in the words that they are uttering.
No, Rush, you can't. And this is the same double down bullshit, but this is part of the
Charlie Sykes?
Yeah.
He's right. Charlie Sykes is correct. I don't like a lot of what he's done the last few years. He's correct. Rush, you know, you can say he's an ill man. He was diagnosed about a year ago this time of year, right before COVID. But he's always had this off the cuff sort of a little bit conspiratorial. I'm a little disappointed in that, but they always can find one clip every week or two that they can play, sometimes out of context, though this was in context. So it's unfortunate that he's saying that. It's unfortunate they play it for the Congresswoman and for their listeners as if it's the only thing he said all day or all week. But, you know, facts are facts.
Okay. And we're gonna close this week on. I wanted to go a little off the board, a little lighthearted topic. I know you have told me you went through the drive-through today. How long did it take you to go through the drive-through at Popeyes?
Okay, the background is Popeyes was supposed to open in the first quarter of 2021 here. It opened January 1st. So they were kind of sneaky. They opened it up, and I didn't know about that till 3 or 4 days ago when I drove by. So it opened January 1st, and here we are 3 weeks later. And I had driven by there 2 nights ago, and at like 7 p.m. and the line was 60 cars. I drove by today. I went at 10:52 a.m. and it was about 20 cars. I will say it moved. It moved fast, and they need to move fast because it's such a small parking lot here that the cars go into the street, either into the street,
right,
into the neighborhood. So people, if you're sitting in your house, you're looking out the window and seeing cars all day. That kind of sucks. So yeah, it opened. It's doing well. I have to tell you, between you and me, I wasn't impressed. And I've been to Popeyes in Nebraska. I've been there in Minneapolis, and I've been there in the South, including in Paducah, Kentucky, just last month. The prices here are about 20% higher than they were a month ago in Kentucky. I don't know if that was updated January 1st or because they're new. That was disappointing. You're talking a different, like $6.99 to $8.50. So that's closer to 30%. So was unfortunate. The service, while it was quick, was very unfriendly. I don't really always care about that, but you think being new, they'd be a little friendlier. They were very, just kind of curt with a C, not with a K. And frankly, the food was good, but I have to be honest, Chick-fil-A, even KFC, just as good, if not a little bit better, depending on the item. And even Chick-fil-A is a little bit cheaper. So
I went through the Popeyes in my area a couple of times, just hearing all the buzz about it and that. And they've been around, places I've lived for a while. And it took like 50 minutes to get through the drive. It was a clustercluck.
5-0?
50.
Not worth it. I mean,
yeah.
Raising Cane's has long lines, but it moves. And I went to Raising Cane's on Wednesday for the first time since I saw you. And Raising Cane's never disappoints.
I might be on my way to Raising Cane's right now.
Lucky you. I'd have to drive an hour. It never
before the traffic hits. But yeah, they have it lapped around and that, but they had it really well organized. I saw the manager there organizing this, people saying, here's how we're going to do the line. This is where we're going to have the traffic.
It's always good. It's always fresh. I mean, it's like In-N-Out Burger. It's always well organized and fresh. And that's why they're successful. That's why every time I go to a Raising Cane's, especially in suburban Minneapolis, the line's 60, 70 cars deep, but
Right.
it really takes about 15
And-
minutes at most.
How much advertising do they do?
Not much.
Maybe a little bit of, I've heard them advertising on Cleveland baseball broadcasts.
Yeah, but if you ask the average person in New York or California, they've never heard of Raising Cane's. It's only in parts of the Midwest and the South.
Right. They are opening one in Provo in sometime this year. So, I mean, just about every college town, the ones that
Well,
have,
they started
they're quickly
places
becoming,
like Lincoln and elsewhere. Yeah, that's
they're
a
quickly becoming a nationwide thing. And I guess 2 In-N-Outs opened in Denver, and I think it might be finally safe to go there. But the first weekend it was open, there were 14-hour lines. There were people getting out of their cars to fight.
Send me that, because I didn't realize they opened in Denver. I knew they're in Salt Lake City, and of course they're in Texas and California, Arizona.
Yeah, there was a couple guys got out, and I think one of them looked like he was off the Broncos practice squad, and the other guy was wearing sweats, and his sweats are coming down by the end of it. He was taking a pretty good beating.
I'll tell you what.
Guess Buffalo Bills fans do that too. They actually fight in the stands.
Oh, yeah.
But it's all good.
That was an interesting looking crowd at the Bills game on Saturday night. You talk about 25 years without playoffs, and they hadn't had attendance in any games this year. You can imagine that was quite a crowd of Western New York folk.
Right. And the other big story that came out of that was, and actually Bills fans did this a couple years ago because they got into the playoffs after Cincinnati beat Baltimore the last week of the season. They sent donations to Andy Dalton's charity in Cincinnati.
Right.
This time around, the game was basically decided when Lamar Jackson threw a pick six and it was returned 100 yards, and it was really decided when he was had a bad snap and he was chasing through the ball away and then got hit and knocked out of the game. But what the fans did was, I guess his Lamar Jackson's charity luncheon backpacks, I forget the exact name of it, in Louisville, Kentucky, where he played college collegiately. All of a sudden, this charity goes, where are all these donations coming from the middle of nowhere? There was like a few hundred, and a few hundred became a few thousand. It just went absolutely viral, and it was the Bills Mafia sending $8 and $17 donations, and in the end, the charity had raised $450,000, and it's not only going to be used in Louisville, but they're also going to expand the program into Baltimore and Buffalo as well.
Right, they added Buffalo. That was good. Yeah.
That's a fact. I think you're going to be seeing more of that out of teams. Someone said this is just the next new great tradition. As some of our people in Iowa know, there's they do a little thing after the first quarter of the Hawkeye games with the Children's Hospital. Got built a few years back, and they wave at the patients on the top floors. So, I mean, there's good that comes out of sports. There's reasons why we watch still, even after all these years. And I know whoever winds up in the Super Bowl, you can't really go wrong with who the participants are going to be. Either Tampa Bay is going to become the first team ever to play the Super Bowl, and it's
the Vikings almost did 3 years ago. The Vikings were.
Yeah, that was the only other time I even recalled it being close. Maybe one other time in the 70s, maybe the Dolphins got close to one that they would have hosted. But yes, and obviously, I'm obviously rooting for Green Bay to get it. We'll see. I think the last time the Bucks and the Packers played at Lambeau was like 3 years ago, and both teams are going nowhere. Aaron Rodgers was hurt. The Bucks are having a typical Buccaneers season, and the game went into overtime. It was boring. Sunday they're going to be playing for the NFC Championship, and then if it's like Green Bay, Buffalo, I mean, is that going to be off the hook? Someone will win.
That would be I prefer, I'd like to see that be the game, Green Bay and Buffalo, frankly, but
I'm kind of in the middle of it. I'm near Kansas City. I've got a lot of Packers folks around, Ted and everyone else. So, Green Bay, Kansas City, kind of, besides the obvious rematch of the first Super Bowl 54 years ago. And it will become the second Super Bowl to be played at less of a capacity crowd, both involving the same team, possibly both involving the same teams,
Right.
if the home teams were to hold serve.
That's kind of funny. I didn't think of it that way. Yeah. Well, if you left your house right now, you could drive to Denver and probably get to the In-N-Out in suburban Denver before it closes, in 7 hours, 7.5 hours.
That's an idea. The weather has not been bad. I mean, it's not like Interstate 80 is, blizzard shut. It's actually a cold day. We got a little bit of snow flying around here, but nothing major. But you've shown me so many places. There's a place in Kansas City. What's the name of it?
Winstead's.
Yep. Okay. Because I might make the trip down there. I'm wanting to hit Austin, and then because I want to visit the Capitol and see what things are going on with the lawmakers there. And I know you, I guess you got the opportunity to sit down with someone a couple days ago. Was it Mr. Jensen?
Scott Jensen, yeah, former state senator who just retired, but also a doctor and on Fox News quite a bit during the last many months talking about COVID, because he's skeptical of some of the numbers that are being reported in terms of casualties, deaths. As a doctor, he takes these things seriously, and he wants Minnesota and other states, but especially Minnesota, because he's from here, to release more information about that, because he doesn't believe, and I don't think anyone who's honest really believes, that all of these deaths are due to COVID. Who knows if it's 80%, 50%, whatever, but every death seems to be marked as COVID. When you're 97 years old and you die, COVID. You're right. George Floyd, killed by the police, COVID.
And this is an article I want to do is, where the heck is the seasonal flu? And
we've done that article. It's
I mean, I could go back to the screen share. How many COVID deaths in China again?
A couple thousand.
I mean, in the last 24 hours.
Yeah. Out of a population of over 1 billion.
3 billion.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's where the NBA gets most of their income now. The NBA is more popular in China than
you have to remind me. No, I don't mind the average people in China giving them money, but when they're working with the government, especially Google, to censor people, it's just purely evil.
Okay. Well, China actually had 103 cases yesterday.
103.
103. Yes.
Not 103,000.
Nope. 103.
You've got to be an absolute effing moron to believe anything they're saying. And I think many people in the country, especially on the left, do, because they want to say the U.S. has the most cases and deaths. And I don't think we do. I think China probably does. And Russia might have close if they were honest with their numbers too. Not that it's a race or anything, but it's easy to just excuse rogue regimes, apparently. Hey, there's my cat.
You know what? We always have to close Friday with this. There you go.
That is Dixie.
I mean, we should rename her the Kaufman family cat.
Well, we have 3 cats, so it would be kind of unfortunate.
But you have one with a politically incorrect name.
Dixie. Yeah, we just call her the baby cat usually, because she's much younger than the other ones. But she's very photogenic, and she was on my lap with the sun hitting her last night, and so I took that picture and sent it your way.
Yeah, that was, and then I saw it come through my phone, and it's like she's tearing me right. It's like she texted me herself.
Yeah, she gets really close, and then as soon as you move a muscle, she jumps off. So it doesn't last.
Yeah, I noticed that when I visited her.
Rather skittish.
But,
So I'm gonna, we'll wrap it here. There's college hockey tonight, being that it's Friday. St. Cloud State not allowing fans still, but they are going to host Miami of Ohio and next weekend Western Michigan. So hopefully they'll
and
be.
if they lose a third straight game tonight, you are going to be beside yourself.
Well, they've beaten Miami 11 straight times and 17 out of like 18. So it would be really bad to do that, especially coming off a very bad weekend.
I go there and they played at Colorado College, and then Colorado College looks like they look like Boston College.
Yeah. It's Omaha's playing CC this weekend, aren't they? No, Denver, I think.
Has Omaha played in the last month?
Well, they played this Monday and Tuesday. They played out in Colorado Springs, and they won both. And actually, Kurt, the Mavericks are allowing fans, and they're home the next 3 weekends. And I'll keep you posted on my schedule. But you could go up there tonight or tomorrow and see them play Denver, I believe.
That's true. I haven't, it's like what I've been thinking is, well, I want to make sure the games are being played. I don't want to say, well, we just had a few more COVID cases on campus,
Right,
or whatever. So I guess I've been holding back on that for that reason. But yes, I may definitely get through a game out there. Be my first, except for seeing the Northwoods League. But
6-game homestand, Kurt, for Omaha starting tonight against Denver, and then they have North Dakota and Colorado College. It's tomorrow and Sunday for Omaha because I guess they played so recently on Tuesday. So tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday against Denver, and then North Dakota, who I'm sure will bring fans because I don't think they're allowing fans yet. I could be wrong.
and unfortunately, Ben Holden is no longer part of the CBS
Yeah.
Sports Network broadcast because I think the way they did it, it was Steve Cangelosi, who does New Jersey Devils. I think he's in a studio with Dave Starman, and they're both in New Jersey remotely broadcasting the game. And that's how it's done these days. And a few jobs, like everywhere else, have gone by the wayside during the pandemic.
So it's because of the pandemic, not because of anything he did.
Oh, no, not at all. And Ben Holden, classy fellow, Navy veteran. He was Navy enlisted. So, he actually was with Starman in the Omaha pod.
He was.
So we'll hear from him again. It's just a sign of the times. But it's kind of the life of a journeyman announcer, bouncing around from place to place. So, because Starman's on everything, he'll be on the ESPN coverage for the.
Yeah, yes, he really is on everything.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, anyways, that's our show for this week, and we'll be back. Probably next Friday, maybe not long after that. So, thanks for tuning in. Everyone have a great weekend, and I'll see you soon.
Okay, thank you.